This is, what day is it, Jonathan? Hump day. What? Remember how excited you were in 5th grade?
That was hump day. That's it.
Hump day Wednesday. The last Wednesday of January. January is gone. January's about done. February's a short month, even though it's leap year, it's still a short month. January 29th, 2020. Those of you that came in and did what you were supposed to do, like Evelyn, she's got her homework out, she's checked all of her answers. Any that she missed, she put a slash through, and any that she missed and she doesn't understand why she missed, she knows that Mr. Franklin will gladly, cheerfully try to help her, say it in a different way, whatever. Also, if you don't understand something, not that I would ever want anyone to do this, but since it's available, you could always look at the class again on YouTube, or get this. If you go online, instead of playing games and you use the internet for what is really valuable, you could find probably hundreds, but in a matter of seconds, you could find other people explaining this, and if something that I'm saying isn't clicking, and maybe the way they say clicks, that's what you got to do. You got to know it. Because Lauren knows she's not just here to pass time and to do the work because the teacher expects it and her mom expects it. She's here to learn. She understands the big picture of learning this, because then that's going to lay the foundation for the next math, and that'll help her with the next math. And she knows that there's a future ahead of her, and she wants to be excellent. She wants to be successful in whatever she's going to do in life. So she understands that sitting here at 12, 13, 14 years old, I don't know what she is, she's starting to get it. Like, hey, this matters for my future. Is anybody else like Lauren?
What?
That knows that this actually matters for my future?
Yes.
Oh, totally. At least you know how to flatter the teacher and act like it's true. All right, here we go. All the answers are on the board. We've got to keep the train moving. If after we do today's lesson and you start on today's homework, let's say Seth sees something up here and he's like, I have no idea how they got that answer. So the last 10 minutes of class, while everybody's working on today's homework, you're like, wait a minute, time out, Mr. Franken. I didn't understand how you got that. You got to do that. Ready? Here we go. You remember these. Percent problems. By the way, I say 1/2, you say 0.5, or fractions, decimals, and percents are all the same thing. I say 1/4, you say 0.25, or 25%. I say 0.4, you say 2/5, or 40%. Because you know that they're all the same. The word percent means, ready? Percent. 100. Because since 1st grade you knew there were 100 years in a century. You know that there's 100 cents and a dollar. So that, let's keep testing your knowledge of the cent. You know that a centurion was in charge of how many soldiers? 100. A centurion? A Roman leader?
Wasn't a legion like...
Okay, so all that to get you to understand, first of all, what percent means. It's per 100. Why do we have this thing called percent? It's a way of comparing things. Like you have a 20-question test or you have a 100-question test. Well, if you had a 100-question test and they all were worth 1, that's easy, right? You got 98 out of 100, you got 98%. But what if you had a 20-question test? How would that compare to a 100-question test? Well, if you missed one, you'd have a 95 because So we tend to use the word percent because it gives us a frame of reference how to compare one thing to another. Does that make sense? Somebody shoots 50 free throws and they make 40 of them. Well, how's that compare to someone that only shot 10 free throws? Well, the person that shot 40 out of 50 and made 40 out of 50, the person that made 8 out of 10, we can say when we compare them, hey, they're very similar free throw shooters because they got the same percent. If you were to set that equal to 100, let's take that 40 over 50 and let's make it equal to 100. What would the answer be? 80. Let's take that 8 out of 10 and set it equal to 100. What would the answer be? 80. That's the whole point to using this thing called percent. Because it tells us, hey, I could easily compare these two shooters. They're the same accuracy when it comes to shooting the basketball from the free throw line. Does that make sense? Okay, so here we go. Let's solve easy for me to say here. Real world. If I'm going to say an R and a W together, it gives me trouble. Anybody else? Real world. Real world. You got to say an R with an L sign at the end, and then a W. Ready? Real world problems. I got to slow down and say it. All right. Jordan, take us to, listen, true story. Sometimes on mini-term, students go to places to do mission work, and sometimes they'll do stuff like this. So Jordan, tell us about this real-world problem about a service club that went and helped people out. Go ahead.
A service club is planting seedlings as part of the erosion prevention project. Out of 240 nearly planted seedlings, 15 are running progress. Which percent of the seedlings is rural
sumac? Okay, so you've got 240 seedlings. 15 of them are laurel sumac. The question is, what percent are laurel sumac? What is the problem?
They call
She's
laurel.
Oh. All right, so can I erase all these answers?
Yeah.
Those of you viewing at home, hopefully all you gotta do is press pause and you can see all the answers. All right,
That's hilarious.
somebody set this up for me. What was the word yesterday? Proportion. What proportion can I set up for this problem? Think. Percent. 240 seedlings, 15 are laurel sumac. I want to know what percent are laurel sumac. Somebody tell me, what am I going to write on the board as a proportion that's going to tell me how many percent? David.
15 over 240.
Okay, 15 over 240. 15 out of 240 are laurel sumac out of 240 seeds. What's that going to equal? We're going to write a proportion. We're going to write an equivalent fraction, equivalent ratio. Listen to my words. Ready? I want to know what that is. Percent, David. David. No, don't give me the answer. Tell me what to write. What's my proportion going to look like? Let me give you another hint. Ready? I want to know what that would be. Listen closely. Percent. Thank you. So what's the unknown right now? What the percent is. If 15 out of 240 are laurel sumac, what would that be per 100? Percent. What percent of them are laurel sumac? Well, how do you know what to fill in there? How do you know what to fill in there? You don't know this guy, right? You don't know what percent it is yet. So 240x has to equal 1,500. Stop there. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
If 15 out of 40 are laurel sumac, how many would that be out of How many would that be out of?
100.
Because listen, what is the term percent all about? It gives us a reference point. It gives us something to compare all kinds of things to. That's why we use the term percent. 15 out of 240 would be the same as how many out of 100? Would be the same as. Cross products must be equal. 15 times 100 has to be 240x. How do I get rid of the 240? Divide by 240. Anybody do it yet?
6.25. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
6.25.
If you do the division, I'm going to trust him. And I think it might be in your book.
Yeah,
6.25%. Now wait, does that make sense to you? Use your math brain. Wake up. Quit daydreaming. Quit thinking about what you're wearing. Does this make sense to you that 15 out of 240 would be a little more than 6 out of 100? What does the word percent mean per 100? That should make sense in your brain right now. That 15 out of 240, yeah, that's a reasonable answer. Stop. Because what's half of 100's less than half of 240. So your answer has to be less than half of 15. You with me? 6.25. How did we find the answer? How do we find what it is percent? We take the 15 times 100 divided by 240. You get it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, let's go down the bottom. 126 is what percent of 150? 126 is what percent of 150? Everybody understand?
Yes.
100, listen, if there's 150 shots and I made 126 of them, 126 is what percent of 150? So what's that end up being? 150x equals, and then we'd be able to find out what percent that is. You following this?
Yeah.
By making everything, comparing it to 100 per 100 per 100 percent. 126 out of 150 would be what percent of 100? Yeah? 84%. When you do this division, 12,600 divided by 150, you get 84. I think it comes out exact, doesn't it? 84%. Raise your hand. Don't wait until you're neck deep and not understanding. If right now we're just starting, the water's just starting to rise, don't wait till you drown and try to put your hand out of the water saying, oh no, I need help. Do you get the analogy? Right? So right now you're standing here and the water's rising and you're getting a little nervous because, oh no, I don't understand. And now it's up to your waist. Or how about that old song? I'm getting eaten by a boa constrictor. You know that one?
No.
You know that song? I'm getting eaten by a boa constrictor.
No.
And I don't like it very much. You don't know that?
I
Oh no, oh no.
No one knows that.
Hold on. Oh no, he swallowed my toe, he swallowed my toe. Oh gee, he's up to my knee, he's up to my knee. Oh fiddle, he's reached my middle, he's reached my middle. You don't know this one? Oh heck, he's up to my neck, he's up to my neck. Oh, dread, he swallowed mine.
What?
We
No.
need to play this song.
That wasn't me.
Alright, so don't wait till he swallows your whole head. You know, you gotta get help before he swallows you all up. Yeah. Like, hey, call for help when the boa constrictor is swallowing your toe. Don't wait until he swallows your head.
Just shoot it.
Number 2. 84 is what percent of 70? 84 is what percent of 70? I'm comparing 84 to 70. That's the same as comparing something to 100. Percent. Exactly. You know going in, if you get an answer less than 100%, you know it's wrong, you got to redo it. Why? Because what's 100% of 70? 70. So you know your answer going in has got to be over 100. Let's see what we get. 70. Some of you aren't doing it. I'm not going over math for you. You got to do it. You're dividing 70 or 8,400 by 70. Somebody that's really good at mental math right now is recognizing that this is in your times table.
Yeah, it's
Not 12.
Oh, yeah.
12.
Okay, so keep thinking. 120%.
Yes.
120%. 8,400 divided by 70.
Oh, yeah.
This video is going to get copyright strike.
You sing the song.
Boa constrictor?
Yeah.
So you're saying next episode I got to find out who wrote the boa constrictor and give them props?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're thinking about this episode.
Oh, this episode.
But you can still get copyright strike.
Turn the page. The quote-unquote school newspaper isn't really done by students. Mrs. Droken puts out a weekly. It is done by students. The Heartbeat
Students and
contribute.
yeah,
Okay.
like Gina Morgan writes.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that.
Jill writes something.
All right. But the yearbook, you could be part of that when you get in high school. Another real world problem.
Real world problem.
David, go ahead. You're working for the school newspaper. Shh.
Your school newspaper's budget this year is 160% of last year's budget, which was 2,120.
Shh. Listen.
$2,125. What is this year's budget?
This year's budget compared to last year's budget. Let's set up a proportion. Is it okay to erase all this?
Can I answer?
You know what? I'm not going to write this. I want you to listen to my words and look at the example. Because why would I write it when it's right there in your book? Ready? Listen to, yeah, the answer's right there though. But listen, look at the example number 2, the solution. Ready? Why is it set up like this? We're comparing this year's, which we don't know. What's the unknown here? This year's budget. We're comparing that. If you remember yesterday or the day before, I said this word ratio is a comparison of two numbers. So now you learned that division is really a comparison of two numbers. Let's compare 81 to 9. That's the example I used the other day. Comparing 81 to 9, we would say 81 is 9 times as large as 9, right? So division is really a way of comparing numbers. So I'm comparing this year's budget to last year's budget. Look at your example. We don't know what this year's is yet, but here's what we do know. That it's 160% of last year's budget. So what did they make the proportion? The unknown, this year's compared to last year's, is equal sign, look at it, 160 over 100. Why did they write 160 over 100? Because that literally reads 160 per listen, translate 160 over 100 like this. 160 per 100%. Because 100 is cent. You get it?
Yeah.
So how do you write 160%? 160 per 100. Makes sense. So let's follow the solution. So then, what do? 2125 times 160 equals 100 times A. They had to divide by 100. Once they figured out 2125 times 160, they divided it by 100, and they got this year's budget is $3,400. Now, $3,400. No, wait. Yeah, for the whole year.
Ours is free.
No. Is that a reasonable answer? Without checking your work and doing all the math again, look at the answer and ask yourself, is that a reasonable answer to that problem? Last year you were spending $2,125. This year you're spending $3,400, and they told you you're spending 60% more. Because 160% is 60% more than last year. Isn't that a reasonable answer?
That would be a
Reasonable answer. Example number 3.
I have a question.
Quick. Shh.
I don't understand what you did when you multiplied by 200.
2125 times 160, and then divide by 100, because that, just like we were setting them up, when you multiply 21, the cross, and then you got 100 times the unknown, the variable, 100 times x.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get rid of the 100? Divide by 100.
So you divide with everybody.
You sure? Number 3, find the number of which 24 is 0.8%. You're comparing 24 to another number, and they told you that that is the same as 0.8. How much is like that? Per 100%. That's why they set it up like that in example 3. You're comparing, find the number which 24 is 8%. Compare 24 to another number. We don't know what it is yet, but we do know it's 0.8% of that number. It is 0.8 per 100. What do? Same thing. We've got a proportion here. How do we find the unknown? Cross multiply. 0.8x equals 2400. How do we get rid of the 0.8x? Or the 0.8? Divide by 0.8. X equals 2400 divided by 0.8. What's that look like?
3,000. No, not 3,000. 3.
Woo! Before I divide decimals, I gotta make my divisor whole. What's that mean for this guy? Woo! 8 goes into 24. 0, 0,
Oh, this is
0.
That makes sense.
24 is 0.8% of 3,000. Now, Jaden, let's see if that makes sense. Jaden, what would 1% of 3,000 be? Take 2 zeros off. What would 1% of 3,000 be? 1% of 3,000 would be 30. Quit daydreaming. 1% of 3,000 would be 30. I need that to make perfect sense in your brain. Because it's 100th of it, 1%. Take 2 zeros off. So, if 30 is 1%, if 30 is 1% of 3,000, and 0.8 is less than 1, 24 is a reasonable answer. Yeah. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. There is that. Listen, if you're at all confused, because this is 3 different ways of looking at it. Guess what they put there right at the bottom of 328 for you? a summary of what we just did, all the ways you're going to set up these problems. You got the video, you got the summary, you've got countless videos online. Hey, these percent things, I can't quite figure it out. Mr. Franken, it's like you're speaking Greek, okay? Keep looking until you can find it, because you're like, who did I pick on earlier? You're like Lauren. You understand how important this is, because you're getting older now. You're more mature. All right, your problems are 2, ready? 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll try to limit it since I went so long. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 through 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 through 12. 2 through 5, 7 through 12. Page 329. You got it? Go get it. Or could have said 2 through 12 except 6, right, Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm good at science.
Oh, yeah, you could have said that.
What, honey?
We're starting on 2.
Lauren, our science test.
Good. I'm setting off next.
Oh!
Oh, that was my fault, Brett. I just wanted to-
I think
Yeah, yeah.
this guy. Her. I got on 7.
I think it's
At least we have to do our English study hall experience.
I know.
We have to do our English study hall, so we didn't do it.
She said you have to do it.
I was like, what are you doing?
I did that earlier and it didn't work when you were like, no, you don't do that. You think about it. No, you're like, I guess.
So I just flew.
Okay, well, I finished that.
I'm just gonna say,
Rachel. I get
does
the,
this sound tropical?
now people are saying.
Just sleep. Sleep
It's
not tropical.
You did?
I sang that song in the Bible. It's not good.
Yeah.
What if it's
But
it didn't really work.
it's like the only one who actually like. There's just a thread on the wall. I know. I wrote that.
Anybody has not done number 2 yet, or you don't understand what you're even supposed to do? Anybody? Thank you. All right. Number 2, 6 is what percent of 75? I'm comparing 6 to 75. Think about it like that. Listen, you're comparing 6. Listen to my words as I write this. Everybody, please. I'm comparing 6 to 75. I'm realizing that division problems, fractions, are like comparisons. And what did they tell me? It says, or what are they asking? 6 is what? Percent. What? Hello? I don't know. What?
Percent.
Percent. So 6 out of 75 is the same as what out of 100? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
6 is what percent of 75? So what ends up happening is it's 75x equals 600. So x is 600 divided by 75. Six. Remember, proportions are always solved by cross multiplication. And how do you find out what's left? You divide by 75. That's how you got 8. Right, Isaac?
Hey, it was close, I got 7.
You got 8 for number 2?
You did know
Yeah, I did.
I got it.
Oh, I did it extremely different.
Isaac, if he's using mental math, said to himself, I need 1/3 more, so 2 more than 6 is 8. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I did it all in my head, so I can't show you. But
Here, let me show you.
but you
What's he saying, Dominic?
Oh, Isaac.
Who?
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, you know.
He put the little mask
He's
on.
in like, what's his
Have you ever seen Iron Man 2?
Iron
No.
It's, I put that thing.
Listen. My Marvel/Disney/all those kind of, I've never seen any of it. My connection to Disney for Disney Day is Disney, if you didn't know, owns 80% of ESPN. ESPN's where football games are, yeah. And they also own a pretty decent share of Fox Sports. So the Buckeyes play on ESPN and Fox. Therefore, the Buckeyes are under the umbrella of Disney.
They own it.
That's my rationale.
I enjoy it so much.
You're like, you get so much better.
So, between Disney and Google,
You're done?
they basically run our lives. Yes.
We thought of the same thing. The guy runs back.
How did I arrive at that conclusion? How did I get 8? 600 divided by 75.
He's rich.